Thanks.
Are you able to record, Emily, or?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Matt, put
Yeah.
yourself on mute.
Unmute.
Now I can hear your conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, and actually we can
They were
talk.
arguing about something.
Okay.
Before you start, Don, let's just talk a few etiquette things. So this is going to be very informal. So feel free though to add any questions you have in the chat, and Emily and myself will moderate and we'll pull in the questions as they make sense. And then also, if you want to keep your camera on, we would love to see your faces. It's always nice on this side of the camera to see other people's faces. I'm a teacher and I see a lot of icons when I'm doing like classes with my middle school students, and that's not as fun. So feel free to keep your cameras on. And just really, again, it's going to be back and forth with Don and I for a little bit, but then we're going to open it up and it's going to be a conversation with all of us at the end. So think of some things that you want to share by the end. So I'm going to mute myself now, and Don, take it away.
Okay. So thanks everyone for being here. I know most of you, and I really appreciate having you in my life, friends and family. And some people I don't know, and I appreciate you being here too. For sure, let's find a way to connect the people I don't know, at least on Twitter, and continue our conversations. I'm really grateful for your support. A little bit about me. I've been in education for about 24 years. I started off as a teacher in the Oakland Unified School District in 1994 at Bella Vista Elementary School. And believe it or not, I still keep in touch with some of those kids from my first classes there. They're not kids anymore. I know, but I can't help but to call them kids. And in fact, I'm looking at the pictures and the names here: Elizabeth, Hung, and Huang, who's in his car right here. Those are all my former students from elementary school, my first few classes. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those kids. There you go. I eventually became a principal, worked in East Side San Jose, and my last school, I was at Barrett Ranch Elementary School as the principal. It's in Antelope, California, near Sacramento. And shout out to some of those teachers because they're here. I see Jen, and let me see who else is here. Is Kendra here? Yeah, Kendra's here. So Jen DeBortley, Kendra Barrett. Is that it, Jen? Yeah. So many of the ideas from this book are based on the work that we did in building a culture of literacy at Barrett Ranch. I've always worked in Title I schools, and for those who are not familiar, who are not in education, Title I schools, where a majority of kids are from under-resourced communities, officially a majority of kids receiving free and reduced price lunches. I've always gravitated towards working with families that reminded me of my own, immigrants, refugees who are struggling to make a better life in America for themselves and their children. Like we mentioned earlier, like my mom and I were talking about, we left a few days before the fall of Saigon in 1975. And we were some of the lucky people to come to America and start a new life for ourselves. We came with almost nothing in our pockets. And when I see a struggling parent ask for help for their child, I see my own mom asking for help. And there is nothing in the world that will keep me from supporting them. About a year and a half ago, I took a leave from my job, almost 2 years ago. Took a leave from my job as principal of Barrett Ranch. Wanted to spend more time with my daughter, be a stay-at-home dad, and do some creative things like finishing this book. And of course, I had no idea, but a few months after I left, the pandemic hit, right? And the world changed. I literally became a stay-at-home dad, and then I was able to finish this book. So this book is out in the world. Hopefully things are opening up again, and that's a little bit about me. So thanks everybody for being here.
So let's kind of start the conversation, and let's add on a little bit to what your mom started talking about. What is the significance of this day for you personally, and how is that connected to the book you ended up deciding to write?
Well, it's like my mom said, today commemorates the 46th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. That's when the Vietnam War ended. And for a lot of Vietnamese Americans or Vietnamese throughout the world, because they're refugees who are spread across the world. And you know, in America during that first wave, there were about 120,000 Vietnamese refugees who came to America. And if you look at today, if you can guess how many Vietnamese Americans are in America right now, it's 2 million, about 2 million Vietnamese Americans. So we have third, fourth, and fifth generation Vietnamese Americans. Some of my students, my kids, have their own kids here who are in the school system. So it's an amazing diaspora, you know, when you talk about the immigration. And so so my book is about students and families who come to America, who search for a better life, who want to live the American dream, whatever that means to them. And so that's the importance of it. I wanted to, I did share last week, I had a webinar and I did my first ever book reading. And Jen, I know that you were there last week. And so I apologize for the people who were there, because I wanted to kind of share that same reading with you, kind of to extend, you know, a little bit more about myself, and also to address, you know, that question, why is today significant? So is that cool with you, Melissa?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let me do this. Can I share my screen? Let me share my screen.
You should be able to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, we can see it.
See it? Okay. So I'm gonna read this. This is the second time ever that I've read from my book in public. And let me see here. Let me play it first. Okay. Okay, so that is that's a video of a C-130 military airplane. So before I start, I wanted to give you some context. I have these prelude chapters that introduce the main chapters of the book. And in these prelude chapters, I talk about my own refugee experience and my family's refugee experience, with the hope that, you know, the reader, you would get to know me a little bit more, get to know the story of one more immigrant and his family, and in doing so, have that connection. And so this is the prelude chapter to one of my main chapters, and it's titled "In the Unlikely Event of a Sudden Loss of Cabin Pressure." The C-130 is considered the Swiss Army knife of military planes. It's been used in war to drop bombs, carry equipment, deploy troops, launch drones, and much more. One reason for its versatility is its fuselage, the main body of the plane, at approximately 41 feet long, 9 feet high, and 10 feet wide. It's huge. As such, it can carry 10,000 pound bombs, which can be deployed during flight through a rear hatch. Well, it is a machine used primarily for destruction in war. The C-130 became a symbol of salvation for many Vietnamese in the final days of the Vietnam War. On the morning of my family's departure from Vietnam, from our home, my parents had moments of second thoughts. As we boarded the bus to Tân Sơn Nhất Airport, my mom told my eager dad that she didn't want to leave because my younger brother and I were sick. She suggested going back home and waiting until our fever subsided. At least the journey would be more tolerable, she thought. She and my father could not have known that every day leading up to the final evacuation of the American embassy would bring more chaos and confusion. Something in the back of my parents' minds told them to continue forward. Both my grandmothers were also hesitant to go, as they would be leaving many of their other children and grandchildren behind. My paternal grandmother would also be leaving her husband behind. He had been working on a farm in a town near the coast of Vietnam and could not make it back into Saigon in time. But they boarded the plane nonetheless, comforted by the thought that this was possibly a temporary evacuation and that they would return home when the dust settled. Little did they know that day would be their last in Vietnam. The C-130 was designed to carry as many as 90 paratroopers for deployment into battle. But the chaos of the Vietnam War made policies, regulations, maximum capacity, and operational limits moot. It was reported that in one evacuation flight from Saigon, 452 Vietnamese refugees disembarked from the belly of one C-130 after it had safely landed in a Thai Air Force base. Well, I'm not sure if our plane's capacity came close to that number. I've been told that it was packed like a can of sardines, everyone sitting on the fuselage floor. And that is part of the prelude chapter. I wanted to share with you this picture too. It's a picture that was taken a few months after we had arrived in California, and that's me right there in the red hoodie.
Well, and Catherine in the chat had said something that I completely agreed with. She said, I absolutely love the format and it reads like a memoir and a PD book. So for those of us who haven't read all of it and some of us haven't had it in our hands yet, I think from what I have seen, that's absolutely true. It's such a different feel than most professional books that I've read, because I can feel you and your story coming through along with the professional suggestions that you give to teachers and librarians. So I think that is a really powerful part of the story.
Yeah, Melissa, it's Ray. I'm just chiming in. You know, when Lois gave me this manuscript, I had the very same reaction. I was like, I've never read a professional book like this. The preludes are so magnificent, you know, they're so moving. You know, Dawn is a beautiful writer on so many levels, you know, and it was an honor to just work with you, Dawn, on this book. I just have to say, you know, your story is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. For those who don't know, Ray is the editor at Scholastic Education. So he and I and Lois were kind of busy, you know, working on the book the last year for this past year. But I appreciate it, Ray. Thank you.
And that not busy with you though, Dawn. Sorry, Melissa, I just want to say you made it very easy.
Well, and I do think this is like a perfect like segue. It's like people in our audience know what we were planning on talking about, because the next thing we were gonna kind of discuss is, how did this book come to be? Like, what was the journey of your book from the idea when you first maybe had it to like the journey that you took to now finally being here with the finished copy in your hand? And I think we'd all like to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. So in 2018, the summer of 2018, Barrett Ranch School just received the Exemplary Reading Program Award from the International Literacy Association. And so there was a conference in Austin, Texas, and I went with a couple of teachers to receive the award. And I met with an editor of a publishing house, and he said, "Hey, let's write a book." And so I started writing a manuscript for a book on building a culture of literacy. in schools. And so we had worked for about back and forth for about a year and a half, going through revisions, and we came up with about maybe 6 chapters of this book. And he took it to he took the proposal, the book proposal, to the editorial board of this publisher. And this is October 23rd, 2019. I remember it because it's my birthday. And he called me and he said, "Hey, Don, they rejected it." And he said, "Yeah, they just said that it sounded too academic, like a textbook. And there were too many other books that talked about the culture, building a culture of literacy in schools." And, obviously I was shocked, a little devastated. I was like, okay, we just spent like a year and a half doing this, and that was it. And he's a very nice guy. I mean, he's a friend. I consider him a friend. So he just said, "Good luck," because we're at the end of the rope here. And I was disappointed, but I was kind of relieved because I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't really excited about writing that book. And the next day I decided, okay, what if I just wrote a book and I wasn't so worried about being published. I just wrote a book that was important to me. And then I started writing. I started thinking about my career and my connection, my history as an immigrant, as a refugee, and my work in schools. And I wrote almost nonstop for a few months, and I shared it with I shared the what I had with a few friends. And I don't know if Anne's here, Anne Wissinger, and most of you guys know Anne just from Scholastic Book Fairs. But I shared it with her, and she really liked it. She said, "Hey, do you mind me sharing it with some of my colleagues?" And I said, "Yeah, please do." And so Anne sent it over to Lois Bridges, the famous Lois Bridges, who's the publisher editor at Scholastic. And Lois thankfully loved it. And she set me up with the team, with Ray and Sarah and a bunch of other people. And the rest is history. For the last over a year, we've been kind of working on this book, trying to get it published during the pandemic. And, it's just been an amazing experience. The Scholastic Education team, from the editorial team to the marketing team, the PR team, has been super supportive. And so that's kind of where we're at.
And I put in the chat after you were talking about you'd been working on this book for a year and a half, and then you get this like response that you really hadn't anticipated. You're like, that is really life of a writer. Or like I'm not an author yet, and I know there's a lot of people on here that have written books and are in part of the publishing process. So I think that is a pretty common narrative for many authors, and something that really stuck with me of what you just said. And I think I tie this back to reading. The life of a reader is, once you stopped writing for somebody else, aka a publisher, and you wrote for yourself and your own story, that's when you really kind of felt like that's when it all came together. And you were just writing to tell your story, is what I'm hearing you saying about this whole experience of you growing up, leaving Vietnam, experiencing life as a refugee and an immigrant in the United States, and then becoming a principal eventually with students that were going through the same thing. So you understood exactly what it was like to be in their shoes. And so many of us in education don't know what that experience is like, that we don't have those same experiences as the children in our classrooms and in our libraries. So my next question is, what do you hope that teachers and librarians take away from your book and your story? Like, there's a lot of us in the audience. What should we walk away with when we leave this party, and then when we get the book in our hands?
Well, I hope it makes a difference in the way you serve all kids and families. So in this book, I organized the different ideas into these conditions of creating and sustaining a culture of literacy for all. And it's based on a lot of research. It's also based on my experience as in schools as a teacher, as a principal. So there's some easy things to do, and so some not so easy things to do. But my hope is that you just get ideas and be inspired to get to know those communities who have traditionally been in the margins of schools and society. So a few things. I'll just throw out a few ideas. I talk about this all the time, but purchasing books for libraries in the classroom or school, and making sure that they're diverse books, making sure that they represent the students, making sure that students can use these books to be able to learn about others too, who are different from them. I think that's important. Also talk about literate conversations, the informal conversations we have about books and stories. And this helps with fluency, comprehension, and allows kids to, at all levels of fluency, to engage in a fun way. I talk about book talks, reading buddies, book clubs, being good ways to have literate conversations. And finding more time for kids to read independently is a big thing in my book. And for immigrants and refugees, it might be kind of hard for them at home, just because they don't have that support sometimes at home, whether it's language or parents' work issues. I think there are ways to do it, to address their needs, because we know that when kids read more, they become better readers, right? And we know that not all kids have the same opportunities to read independently. So I'm kind of hoping that we see a different side of how we work with students who are immigrants and refugees. The first thing we think about when we mention, okay, students who are immigrants and refugees, we think about learning English as a second language, right? And I think that's the way it should be. We have new Americans who eventually need to become fluent in English. But there's much more. I think there's much more. And this book talks about what that means. How do we encourage students and build the audacity of equality, the idea that you are equal to others, right? That you have equal rights no matter who you are and no matter where you come from. How do we build that within our students through stories that they read? How do we support students and families at home when no one can read books in English? And how do we build and sustain a culture of literacy that supports all students and celebrates them all? So that's what I hope.
Well, and just looking even at your chapter, your table of contents, I think that there's going to be a lot of tangible things that we as readers will really be able to take away and bring to our libraries and classrooms like tomorrow after we read it. And Liz apparently is going to be stalking her mail person because she can't wait for her copy to arrive. That's what she put in the chat. So I really hope for her mail carrier's sake that they are on time and there's no delays. And in the chat, I will, in a second, I'll put both the direct link to the Scholastic spot where you can purchase a book and the Amazon spot, so that anybody who is out there who wants to order it right now can do so. So we're about 25 minutes left of our celebration, and I just kind of want to open it up a little bit. There's so many people, like you said, that were part of this journey, some from the very beginning, some throughout, and then you have family that are on the call too, that have been like from the very beginning of your whole journey as a person. So if anybody wants to just turn on their mic and just kind of share thoughts, or if you have a question, I'm just going to kind of turn it over and kind of be quiet, but can moderate a little if we need to. So does anybody have anything they want to share or say to Don? Be brave. Bill, I see Bill's hand.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Melissa. And Don, I'm honored to be on this call with you for many reasons. Of course, I had the privilege of visiting your school your amazing school several years ago. And of course, the experience of you being on the principal advisory board during my time at Scholastic Book Fairs. But I was also one of those folks that got a chance to read the ARC version of your book. And although that was quite a while ago, I was touched by it. And I think that the way the book was written, I think I shared this with you with some of my feedback initially. I loved the structure of the book, but more importantly, the messaging that's in it, the lesson ideas that are in it, etc. I think are invaluable. So congratulations. It's a big deal. It's a real cool deal. And I'm just really happy and proud for you. And I can't wait to see it just, become a bestseller. That's what we're going to do with it. We're going to make it a bestseller. So well done, my friend.
Thank you, Bill.
you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? And you don't have to raise your hand. You can literally just turn off your mic and just talk like we're in a room drinking wine or beer or water or whatever you prefer together. And I might just cold call people because my teacher instinct might kick in and I might just say, somebody who I know he knows.
Don,
Hello.
I'll ask a question. It's Ray. Oh, was someone else piping in?
I think it was Jennifer, me. What, Jennifer, were you? No.
Jennifer? Go.
I don't know. I didn't see. I don't know, but I did hear another voice. So why don't you go, Ray? And then whoever was going to say something next, they're next.
Well, Don, I would just love to have your advice to a teacher who suddenly has a child in her classroom, or maybe a couple of children who are new to this country. They have limited English proficiency. What is your advice? And she doesn't know what to do. She's confused. What do you tell her?
That's a good question. I mean, and that happens every day in schools.
Every day.
The first thing I would do is I would advise teachers to kind of be to maybe take off the teacher hat for a bit first, and just look at the student, the child, as a child, as a human who is new to a country due to whatever circumstances. We have refugees who've come from war-torn, environments, who've experienced trauma, and just welcome and just embrace the child and the family. I think that goes a long way. And do whatever you can to kind of just make them feel okay. I was talking to one of my colleagues, a teacher down in San Jose, and this was maybe last year at the beginning of the pandemic, and she had the same situation, and then they went into online learning, so all the kids had to go online, and I helped translate for her and the family, and we talked a little bit, but at some point, she talked to the student, and she just checked in with the kid, and she found out, if you can believe this, and this was maybe about a month into online learning, she found out that the kid thought she was the only one who was sent home to do online learning, and she had no idea why. And the teacher, this was second grade, and the teacher made that extra effort to call and connect, and understood and was able to address that. But I think we start by just being human, right? And then all the other stuff that needs to be done, the learning of the target language, the whatever supports necessary should be done in the school. But I think that's the first step. Thanks, Ray.
Hi.
Don, hello.
Maria,
Sorry.
next.
Maria,
Go ahead, Maria. Go ahead, Maria.
This is
don't
Hi,
let
Maria.
her don't let her talk. I don't know if you should let her talk.
I'm Don's wife of 20 years. I'm actually on my way home from work right now. I pulled over to chime in for a little bit, but we wanted to say, Kate and I, our daughter wanted to say, we're absolutely so proud of him, so proud of him. And this book has been a long journey. I mean, I want to say at least 24 years, because the first day that I met this guy, he told me that his goal in life was to serve the immigrant and refugee population. He said he always wanted to write something. So for many years, that was always on his plate. And I'm so glad this has come to fruition. And it's truly from his heart. And we're just happy and proud. And we're so grateful that you guys are there to support him. And I hope the word gets out there, because it's a great book. And honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but I have yet to finish the book. So so far I'm captivated. But anyways, Dawn, we love you and we're so proud of you, from Kate and me and the rest of the family. So, and thank you so much for organizing this for Dawn, really. So that's it.
That's
Thanks,
awesome. Wow.
She hasn't finished watching. I mean, she hasn't finished watching Outlander, the entire series.
I totally understand.
You know,
you have my support, Maria.
so she has my book in her hand and Outlander, and then she just puts my book down, watches an episode of Outlander.
You got to have both
Thank you, sir.
professional and personal reading, Don. That's just a rare, that's just a balanced reading life going on right there. So that's good.
So I like to say
ahead.
something.
Yeah.
My name is Hong, and I was a student of Mr. Vu's for an elementary school, Bella Vista. And, you know, as a Vietnamese American refugee, I consider myself extremely fortunate to be in Mr. Vu's class, because like just exactly what he said, well, first of all, Mr. Vu, he really walks the talks. Like he really does exactly what he says in his book and how he exemplifies himself, because I'm a product of that. And so, our family went through something really extreme, like traumatizing. And to have a teacher who understood what that experience was like, it provided a stable learning environment for me. He understood the struggles, the challenges of an immigrant life, and leveraged that to connect with us students. And so, my mom and dad, they were struggling to make ends meet. Like for an example, my dad was making below minimum wage in the 90s, delivering newspaper. And instead of him helping me with my homework, I helped him with the paper route. And so having an educator who understood that and spoke my language, he communicated to my family what the priorities were with education and provided them the guidance. And then at home, it was huge, because then they understood that, hey, I really needed the time to do the homework instead of, doing the paper out. And I remember Mr. Vu specifically talking to my parents in our native language, telling them how eager I was to learn and how I wanted to really participate in classroom activities, like going to field trips and doing science projects. And that word, the eager word, it made a remarkable impact on my mom and dad, because it promoted the importance of my character. Like that word eager was something that I attached to for my entire education life. And I identified with that, and it was a positive character attribute for me. And so through his guidance, it really unlocked like a world knowledge, language exploration, and in Mr. Vu's words, really the life of literacy and the truly pursuit of happiness. And I'll tell you why, because he planted a passion of literacy in us. I wasn't just focusing on, doing the newspapers and folding it. I actually started reading them. And my first job was at Barnes and Noble. And so coincidentally, when I was working at Barnes and Noble, I ran into Mr. Vu and his wife when I was doing the books and the coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe you're here. Let's reconnect. So then we started an elementary school reunion. And to this day, we still meet annually, literally met with them last week. And he was telling us about the book. And it just felt like such an honor to have him as a teacher for me in my life. And so, side note, Barnes & Noble better be carrying your book, Mr. Vu. If not, I will be carrying a box to Barnes & Noble next week. But anyway, so to this day, I continued my education to my master's program. I started my own business. Now I have a business of 6 employees with women owned, minority, diverse, and I also manage my mother's business. So literacy and education, foundation of education that Mr. Vu laid has been a strong bedrock of my life. And I'm sure others on this call, like Elizabeth and Juan, can really attest to that. So at the end of this, I just really want to say thank you, Mr. Vu, for just being you, dedicating your life to helping immigrant students, and now empowering teachers to do the same. Really, thank you.
Thank you, hon. It's beautiful. Thank you, hon. Whew.
Anybody else get goosebumps? I literally have goosebumps.
I think Hun should probably write her own book.
I think possibly, yes.
Hey, Neil.
All right, who's next?
So I was just going to say, hello, Don. It's nice to meet you. I'm Valerie DiLorenzo. And anyone that Melissa recommends, I hold her in very high regard. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go to that and see. And so I've listened. I haven't read your book yet, but I could tell from your temperament and your genuine, authentic voice that you've used, and then your former students who have talked about you. I'm just really excited to read this book. And, you know, I'm all about connecting with kids. So to hear you talk about, I mean, we all think literacy is super important. We're all passionate about books, but that relationship piece, you know, is so key. So, you know, thanks for just continuing to inspire those of us that are listening to you. And like I said, I can't wait to read your book.
Thank you, Valerie. Appreciate it. Hopefully you'll win a book. I think Melissa's going to raffle off some.
We are going to have a fun raffle at the end. Of course. Can't be a middle school librarian and not do raffles.
Thanks for being here, Valerie. I appreciate it.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Do you know, one of your C's in the book is connection, right? And I think that sometimes that as educators, we forget about that connection. And I know this year has been driving us absolutely crazy. And so that connection is even more lost. So I'm hoping that with this book and people reading it and being exposed to this, that they get that connection back again. I'm in a relatively, it's becoming more and more diverse. Lots of new students are coming into my school in this area that I lived in. And a lot of them are Asian, right? And so now they had to come together to bring to us books that support that Asian community. And very grateful for all the books because they wanted to understand that the importance of that connection, to understand who we are, who they are. Fortunately for me, I actually speak one of those languages. And so I really freak people out all the time when I speak that language. And so with some of those children that are in my school that don't speak any English, I speak Mandarin, that don't have that experience, and they hear me talk, they're like, whoa, I could go talk to her. Yeah, and their parents can come talk to me and I can understand, and we can have that, you know, that connection. And I just think it's so valuable. It's so important because we are people, we're human beings, and our children are the same. And we have to love them, right? We have to connect with them. We have to communicate with them. And I'm hoping that my principal does use this book as one of our book studies, and because I think it's priceless. So good job, Don.
Thanks, Rhonda. I appreciate it. Valerie, you say in the chat you speak Mandarin too? Or did I
do. And every morning I have some students that come in. I work at a private school, but, you know, we say our 早上好, which is, you know, good morning. You know, we have twin boy and girl in our kindergarten class, and they are also Chinese American, and they speak Chinese at home. And so, you know, it's been a long time since I lived in China. So, but they refresh my memory, and we joke around sometimes. We even pull it in. We did a book chat the other day, and I'm starving. I'm so hungry, you know. It's really, it's a fun way to connect with kids. Even, you know, I'm not fluent anymore, but but through a person's language, you know, their native language. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I think everything that people have just been talking about really goes back to one of the things you said about how sometimes as teachers and librarians, just educators, we just need to take off that primary focus of being the teacher and giving kids knowledge and open ourselves up and just be human and find out who they are as people and just connect with them on a personal level. And that's one of the things that I think all of us who are here kind of get frustrated with in education, is that always seems to take a back seat to the standards and to the objectives and to the learning goals and all those other things that we see that are really being pushed, but then we have to think about what's being lost. And I think your book can really address some of those concerns that we have. And I think it is a perfect book to be a book study, because I know in Castle, the Connecticut Association of School Librarians, Val is one of our members. I see Jenny on here and Shannon's on here. I'm going to be the president of the association in July, and I won't let the power go to my head, maybe. But this is going to be a book study that we do in my library community. And the librarians are kind of the heart of the school, I feel like, so that we can like push out to all of our teachers and bring that learning to each individual teacher. So I personally thank you for writing this book, which was one of the many reasons I wanted to celebrate you, because I think this is a book that's needed in the world. So thank you. Anybody else have any last kind of comments? I'm going to go and get my wheel decide raffle thing ready so that I can share my screen and we can have some high excitement to see who the lucky winners are.
Melissa,
Yes.
it's Lynn. Dawn, I'm cheering for you in so many ways, because this is the book that I wish my teachers had when I struggled to be seen. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for our field that gets to hear your voice and learn more about different ways, right? That we can see kids for who they are and appreciate where they're coming from. So, you know, I stand ready to support your work in our school division. And I just can't wait to have conversations with teachers, librarians, and our ESOL team, so that together we can make magic happen. So magical work. I'm proud to call you a friend, and I just can't wait to share with our staff.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I appreciate it so much.
You know,
Thank
can I say one more thing too about the importance of accepting this culture of people around us? The most important small thing is to pronounce these children's names correctly. If you can't say their name, you really can't have a relationship with them. So we've got to learn how to say their names correctly.
And help kids advocate for themselves and feel comfortable if somebody is saying their name incorrectly, to be able to tell said person, no matter who that is, even if it's the principal of their school, because I've seen that happen where they're just like, oh, it's fine. But I'm like, no, it's not fine. It is your name. You need to teach me how to say that, and I will do my best to make sure that I get it right. So I think that's a really important thing to say, Rhonda. I feel very strongly about that too. Google, man, I look at it like I'll listen to, like I'll type it in sometimes and I'll like listen. I'm like, okay, and I have to listen to it multiple times because sometimes some names are very hard for my tongue to pronounce.
I mean, that's a really good point, Rhonda. I mean, names are part of your identity, right? And that's kind of why you saw in the last year or so people attacking names, right? Mispronouncing names on purpose, right? Kamala Harris, you know, even in Oakland, my former students, they know about this situation last year at Laney College in Oakland, where a majority of the students are students of color. There was a big incident where a professor asked one of his Vietnamese American students to change her name because it sounded like an offensive word. Her name was Phuc. And he's, you know, and this came out because she said, no, I'm not going to change it. right? She said, I'm not going to change it. That's my name. So call me by my name and pronounce it correctly. And he doubled down on it. He said in an email, no, I'm asking you again to change your name to something that sounds less offensive to me. And this was last year in Oakland, California. So the names are important. I do have a story about my name though in the book, but you'll have to read.
Well, you tell the story and I'll get the raffle ready and share my screen. Okay. So
I was going to save that for another.
Is that part 2 of our party? Are we going to like schedule a future party where everybody has to come back?
It might
Don,
be.
I'm laughing. It's Ray. Like, I know the story. It's in the book.
Oh, you have to get the book to read the story. That's what, okay, that's what you got to do, Don. That's what you have to tell people. You don't tell this story, you just give us the lyrics. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my We'll Decide, and Shannon is in the audience. Shannon and I work together. We are 2 middle school teacher librarians, and we've gotten very close since COVID. We've collaborated very closely. And whenever we would do an author visit with our students, we would always have a raffle at the end of some of the books by that author. And it's a free website. So any of you looking for a fun raffle website, it's called We'll Decide. I'm definitely a Wheel of Fortune child. I grew up with Wheel of Fortune, still watch it pretty regularly. And you just upload the name. So everybody's name who was in the spreadsheet as a registered person, I just took your first and last name. We're going to pick, I think, total 5 winners. We're going to have 3 book winners, right, Don?
Yeah.
And then I have 2, and I don't know, I have my background blurred, but I make literacy inspired crafts because I'm just nerdy like that. Rhonda totally knows because I've seen all her really cool crafty things that she does. But it's just like a little book bag so that you can keep your paperback book nice and safe and it doesn't get all like scratched up in your bag, which is really annoying. And it has a zipper because it's secure that way. So I have 2 of those that we are raffling off. So do you want to do a book first, Don? Should the first spin be a book?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. The anticipation is real. Here we go. Okay. And the winner is, Rhonda Jenkins. Woo! It's almost like I fixed that, isn't it? But I didn't.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Thank you very much.
That is awesome. Okay, so number 2 book, another book. The second winner is Christine. Is it Barros? How do you say your name, Christine? Are you on? Is Christine here? Maybe not. You have to be present to win. Did I say that? You have to be present to win. So no, Christine? Okay, we'll do another one. If you show up, can you see, Don, will you check the participants and see if this person is in there? If she is, we have 3 books. So this is the 3rd book. Kathy Eason, are you on with us?
Woohoo, Kathy!
She here?
Yeah.
I can only see 5 of you on my screen right now. I can't see everybody. Yay. Okay. So that's 2 winners, right? Because Christine, I don't think was on, was she?
I didn't see Christine.
Okay. So let's do one of my literacy inspired crafts. So the next person, the 3rd person, is going to. Oh my gosh, Tom Bober, one of my good librarian friends. That is so funny. I didn't fix that.
Yay, Tom.
Thank you. I will take it and enjoy it.
Yay, and you'll tweet about it. Okay.
I will do that, yes.
All right, we'll do one more book and then we'll end with another bag. So this is for the 3rd book. Mary Beth Coleman. Are you on, Mary Beth? Is Mary Beth is from Bookalicious and Scholastic. That's how I know her, but I don't think I saw her name. Oh, I'm totally telling her she won, but she wasn't here, so she didn't win. All right, she's not here for sure, right? No. Okay, we're gonna pick another one. Oh, I'm so excited, my computer's falling. Oh, I don't think you can win.
Yes.
I don't know. Actually, do you want a literacy inspired bag? You can have that.
It's rigged, Dawn. You rigged the system.
I got plenty of books, but I'll take the bag.
Okay, yeah,
Those
so
are
you're
cool.
the winner of the bag. So we have one more book. So one more book. Jennifer, are you on, Jennifer? I don't know.
Jen DeVortley's on. I saw her earlier. Of course, Jen already has a copy, but I'm sure
I
you
already
can-
have a copy of the book, so book it to someone who I'll let spin again for somebody who doesn't have it.
Oh, look at that's awesome. Way to go, Jen.
Yeah, Jen got her copy before I got my copy.
Oh, you were the one that put on Facebook, aren't you? I think, yes, I saw that post. Shelly Griffin, are you on, Shelly? No? Somebody who knows Shelly needs to tell her she won, but she wasn't here. Just saying. Okay. Isn't this like Wheel Decide so much fun? Christine Woods. I feel like I know that person. I think she might, I don't know, but I don't think I saw her on the call. No? Oh. Margot? Oh my goodness. No? Okay. Well, all of the people who are here are still excited because they still have
I think Margot's here.
Margot is here.
Oh.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to reading it. Thank you so much.
That is exciting. So in the chat, I did put, if you are one of the winners, send me an email. My email's in the chat. It's Melissa Tom or joyfullearning@melissatom.com, and send me your mailing address. I will send the people who want a book. I will give your addresses to Emily, who will then mail you a book, and I will mail Don and Tom your fun little bags. So I will be in contact with you about that. So any last words, Don, to kind of wrap up?
No, I'm just really touched that you're all here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting my story, my book, and I really am grateful for your support. So thank you. And it was nice to see everybody, from my former students to, my colleagues and people I haven't seen in a while. So thank you.
Yeah, this was super fun. I'm so glad it worked out. It was nice to see all of your faces from.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Vu, for your courage to really take this on and share your experiences, but also the courage to go where most teachers aren't daring enough to go, to teach immigrant refugee families and students. And that takes a lot of beyond what the normal job would call for, right? You really did that. And so thank you, because it has produced a lot of good fruits up until today and will continue to do so in the future. I just hope that one day this will become a movie about you and your family, and I can't wait to be the first in line. And I wonder who will play you. Maybe Henry Golding?
Yeah, that'd be cool. I like him.
Start putting it out there in social media and get the buzz.
Yes.
You never know.
It's gonna be my life goal for you.
Yeah. Thanks, Hun.
Don, warmest congratulations. So happy for you. So happy for you.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. So.
Oh, yeah, you could have done it. You did do it. Okay.
And Melissa, thank you. One last thing, Melissa, thank you for putting this on. I really appreciate it. It was really cool. So
I'm glad it worked out. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
I told you it'd be fun.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, everybody have a fabulous evening, and make sure if you're a winner, you get me your info or you don't get your goodies. And buy the book. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, Rhonda. So nice to see you.
You too. Bye, Melissa. Bye,
Bye.
Don.
See you, Rhonda.
Good night.
Goodbye.